Welcome back to the Pittsburgh Basketball Show. I'm your host, George Michalowski. Today, bringing on a very special guest, the all-time leader in wins at Duquesne women's basketball, fresh off a contract extension, Coach Dan Burt. Dan, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, George. It's good to be here this morning.
Dan, so you guys have a new look team this year. You brought in a big freshman class, 3 transfers coming in. I assume they've been working out together for some time. Practices about to get going in the next few weeks, but we're still a few months away from the season. Where's this group at right now? How's the chemistry looking? How's the on-court skill looking? How do you feel about this group right now?
We reintegrated 7 new players after losing 5,000 points worth of offense, and so we lost a significant amount of offensive firepower, leadership, really good human beings in people like Ayanna Townsend and Precious Johnson, Amaya Hamilton, Lauren Wasselson, and so and Tess Myers. So we knew we were going to be a new look team with these 7 coming in, and we wanted to have a few that would be transfers that would be ready made to play. And then the freshman class that we signed, I didn't anticipate what they brought this summer. So we've been on campus for 7 weeks and just wrapped up. And this is clearly, in my 28 years of Division I basketball, the most competitive group, with the amount of competitiveness they show on the floor and the depth that we've had in my 28 years in Division I, and certainly in my 18 years at Duquesne. We are very excited about where our team is and what we have going forward. And it all starts with Meg McConnell, and Meg returning for her 5th year after having a lot of opportunity to leave. Meg, with the way that the NCAA is now with the transfer portal and everything, we were very fortunate to retain Meg's services, and she'll go down as an all-time great at Duquesne. But first, we're going to play the season and hopefully win a championship.
Of course, man. So we'll get into Meg a little bit later on. I want to go back to those freshmen. Some of them I was looking into when they signed. You guys put out a press release about this group. Mackenzie Blackford averaged 26 points per game. She's 3-time team captain. Faith Walker sounds like she can also be a big contributor for you guys. Nadia Moore from Winchester Thurston. Fatu also coming over. You've got this big freshman class. You just talked about how they're super competitive, but skill-wise, like how do they stack up against the veterans on the team? And do you think we'll see a lot of contributions, like a lot of minutes from these freshmen right away?
Yeah, we're going to see the freshmen play.
Okay.
They're better than we had thought they were going to be, and their level of competitiveness is very high. It probably starts with Mackenzie Blackford. We call her Mac,
Okay.
and you mentioned all her accolades, and we knew that we were getting a very talented, very well coached player. Bryce McKee was her AAU coach, and he's a very good AAU coach. And then her high school coach runs a great program at Solon, Ohio. And so, what we didn't know is how good of an athlete Mac really is. And the best example I've been given everyone is that we have Journey the Jet Kiaku, who is the most explosive player I've ever coached, and a great track athlete. When we would have a sprint one time down the floor, Mac is the equal or faster than Journey. Now, if it's a race that's in 10 yards, I'm still putting my paycheck on Journey, but sprint from end line to end line, Mackenzie is awfully fast, and she was a national level hurdler this past season, her high school season. And so when you have that kind of speed in the way that we're playing and have the ability to shoot the three at a very high level, you have someone that's going to contribute right away as a freshman. But Nadia Moore, who is from Washington, Pennsylvania originally, and then moved on to go to high school in Toronto, Canada, has been a welcome surprise. I've known Nadia and her family since I was a little boy. Her father and her older brother were great basketball players from Washington. And, with Nadia, we didn't know if she would be able to contribute right away. And a year ago, we went up to a tournament in Toronto that featured 10 Power 5 players, and Nadia was named the MVP of that event. And we knew that we had something then. But until she stepped foot on the court at Duquesne this summer, We weren't 100% sure. And she is a great offensive rebounder, a great on-ball defender, and someone that gets into passing lanes as a help defender. And she's going to find her way onto the floor immediately also because she does those things that we really emphasize in the way that we're playing this year. She's been outstanding. The big surprise out of the freshmen is Kelly McConnell.
You got another one.
You never bet against the McConnell. And I said that in the press release, and I said that
Yeah.
when Kelly. You never bet against the McConnell. And Kelly is a kid that I think a lot of people questioned why we signed her. And she would say that too. And Kelly is really fit in, and she's a kid that's going to play behind, we think the best point guard in the Atlantic 10 and one of the very best in the country, and her cousin, Meg. But Kelly has certainly asserted herself during these 7 weeks that she's someone that is going to be an impact player for us. She's shooting the three at a very high level. She obviously has that McConnell IQ and feel for the game, and she is very, very strong and has a college body right now. So we're excited about what Kelly brings us. The big surprise is Fatou Sene, who has not played because she's still recovering from a knee injury, but many people don't know her. She's from Dakar, Senegal, and when she came to Canada shortly last fall, she attended the Basketball Without Borders camp in Las Vegas, where she was named the MVP for the defensive side. And the Basketball Without Borders camp is an elite level camp. We project Fatou as being a top 50 high school recruit. And so for us to be able to get someone of Fatou's ability, we're really excited. And you can see her on the secondary court while we're practicing, going through drills, non-contact drills, and doing her rehab. You can clearly see that she's going to be a matchup problem because she's 6 foot. She's physically very imposing, and she's a legit 6 foot and played point guard back in Senegal. And for us, she'll play literally everywhere on the floor, 1 through 5. And we're very excited what she brings. She's going to be cleared shortly in the next 2-3 weeks. And so really excited about what she's going to bring and her impact immediately to our program. Faith Walker is from York, Pennsylvania. She continues the tradition of us really being all in on signing players in our recruiting stronghold, which is 3 hours and in. And Faith is a 6'1", and I'm only going to say it one time. She's a clone of Amaya Hamilton, very similar to Amaya, down to the major. She's going to be a PA major, just like Amaya Hamilton was. And she's 6'1". She's athletic. She's got excellent footwork defensively, and can handle the ball like a guard, but can play that 4 and can guard bigger people in the post, or switch out and guard guards and keep them in front of her. And she's going to be someone that will have an impact also this year.
Fantastic, man. You guys brought in a huge class. Obviously, you said projecting Fatou as a top 50 recruit, under the radar players coming into this class. I saw you said about Kelly in that press release as well. She's just started to see her full potential. That to me is like, you sound like she's watching Meg. She's into a college arena. She's heard the doubters that didn't think maybe she should have signed at this level. But sounds like you guys got a real stud on your hands with Kelly. I do want to talk about Meg. We know about her family. We know about the connection to Duquesne that they have. The first family of Pittsburgh basketball, you call them. What does Meg herself mean to this program and to you personally?
It's interesting about Meg. When you talk about her, she's going to go down as one of the all-time greats at Duquesne, and that was very important to her. She has personal goals that she wants to reach, but her team goals override that. And when she made the decision to stay, her decision to stay had nothing to do with name, image, and likeness and money. Nothing. Everything was about the team and the support of the team, so the team would reach their goals and win a championship. That's the definition of a leader, a captain, and a team player, and someone who is a Hall of Famer for us. I can't thank her enough for her trust in myself and our coaching staff. It's a two-way street, though. Years ago, when she was a high school junior and senior, there were many doubters about her for being too small and being too frail, even though she led Char Valley, I believe, to 3 state titles, maybe 4 state championships. People questioned her frame and her size, and she didn't have a lot of Division I interest. And she came to Duquesne, and we thought that we were going to have to redshirt her as a freshman, and we realized you never bet against a McConnell.
Yeah, she wouldn't let that happen.
Yeah. And so we were very excited about what she has given us over these 4 years. And make no mistake about it, this is her team, but this is also Keandra Brown's team, and this is Jerry Kiaku's team, and this is Gabby Hutcherson's team. And Meg has allowed them and helped guide them to be the leaders that they are on this team. And she is just the pole star for who we are as a program, as individual players, and for what we want as a team. We're excited about what she's going to do individually. We're hoping that she'll make the Lieberman watch list for the best point guards in the country and possibly win that. We think that she has a legitimate shot at that. And then, we've done some extensive conversations with agents and WNBA front office people, and we're hoping that we can find a place in the draft for Meg to get drafted. And sometimes being in the draft isn't the best thing if you get selected, because it may not be the right team. Much like brother and the success that he's had with not getting drafted and going to the Sixers and finding his place. That might be the case with Meg, but a year from now, we're hoping that she'll be playing in the league. But first things first, we're going to worry about November 4th when we open up against Princeton.
Yeah, I mean, last year in the city game, I think it was her arm or her shoulder. Right towards the end of the game, she either fell or I don't remember the exact injury, but it looked like she could not move her arm. It looked like when a quarterback comes off the field and you're like, all right, that's a collarbone. She kind of limped to the side, but did not check out. Like she would not check out of the game. Uh, Unbelievable leadership that we saw on display. You mentioned Gabby Hutcherson though. In that city game, she dropped 7 and 6, stepped out and hit a 3, if I can remember correctly. Why did this move to bring Gabby in make sense for Duquesne, and why did it make sense for her to join your program?
It took a lot of convincing from my assistant coaches. Um, we would typically not recruit another local university's player.
Right.
It's just a philosophy that I have. I wouldn't recruit somebody from Robert Morris or Cal PA or Youngstown. It's just a philosophy that I have, and it took some convincing from my assistants that you're going to really like this kid, and so they wore me down. And the recruiting transfer portal is like speed dating. It's basically a 10-day process. So we were actually into the 2-week mark before, with contact from my assistants without me speaking to her, which is highly unusual. And I'm so glad that I finally got on the phone with Gabby, because she's a very smart, good human being. Frankly, I think that the environment that we're going to provide her this year is going to allow her to really blossom. And I'm really happy to water the soil where she's at, planting that soil here and really having a lot of growth over these last 2 months. She's very happy. She's playing with a sense of joy. And I'm a big believer in that. When your kids are happy and they play with joy, they're going to play harder. And it's going to be a very good 5th year for Gabby, and we're excited about what her season's going to look like. And then, when she got to us, she didn't necessarily she thought like her chances to play professionally were over, and nearly 80% of our seniors go on to sign professional basketball contracts. Gabby Hutcherson will be a professional basketball player. There is zero doubt in my mind about that.
It's a convincing pitch. I mean, it sounds like that was a recruiting process that ended up in the right thing for her. So, congrats.
George, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Go for
It's
it.
crazy about how recruiting is. The last 2 players that we talked about, Meg McConnell and Gabby Hutcherson, both of their recruiting commitments really happened in the space of about 6 phone calls combined.
Wow.
Really 2 to 3 phone calls with each one of them and me, and then the visit. It just was right. And you have that vibe after 28 years of coaching, when the vibe is right, when you connect with another human being. And certainly happened with Gabby, and it certainly happened with Meg. And that's been proven with Meg on the floor, and that will be proven with Gabby this year. So sorry to cut you off, but I'm just
No.
really, yeah.
It's fascinating because you hear all about. I mean, we work with plenty of programs in transfer portal recruiting over at the Portal Report, and we hear about these guys saying like, yes, it is speed dating, but at the same time, they're trying to text a kid every 3 hours, they're trying to call a kid every 4 hours, and a lot of times, like you mentioned, the right kid doesn't fall into your lap, but like feels that right away, and they know they gravitate towards, okay, this is going to be the right situation for me, and looks like that's what happened with you guys. So congratulations there. I mean, I'm sure it's a bit easier in the recruiting process when that goes down. Um, I want to ask, last year, 276 3-pointers made, second in the A10 for you guys. A lot of those threes, I mean, you mentioned all the points that are gone on paper. A lot of those threes are no longer on this roster. Uh, is the offense going to look much different in terms of scheme, game plan, or do you plan to kind of try to replace those 3-pointers that are missing?
Well, we didn't talk about the other transfer, and that
Right.
tied into the 3-point shooting. We signed the top 3-point shooter in the transfer portal by percentage. Made about 49% of her threes. That's on Jella Matic, who is a Serbian player that played at the University of Vermont and was with the Olympic team, the Serbian Olympic team, all summer before bowing out at the end. For the final 12 that went to Paris. She didn't make the final roster, and we didn't expect her to. She's young. Her time is 2028 and possibly 2032. But Angela is someone who's outstanding in the pick and roll, and she's outstanding shooting the three. I don't want to give away a whole lot about what we're doing offensively,
Yeah.
but it is going to be different than last year, and the emphasis on threes will be the same or greater. The opportunity to make threes that'll be open will be greater this year because of the way that we're playing. And that leads to our offensive scheme, but also our defensive scheme and how we're playing. And literally it's a work in progress as we speak. It's a basic overriding principle, a guiding principle that I talked to my assistant coaches about. And I said, okay, here's some coaches who have done this, and there's very few at the Division I level who have done what we're doing. Let's go out and let's talk to these small college coaches, and let's find out what works for them and doesn't work for them, and then build our own system with some guiding principles that align with some of the success that coaches that I know at small school levels are doing. And that might be a little bit of word salad, but I'm not going to give away a ton.
Are you talking like D2, D3 schools? Like,
Yeah, I'm talking Division II and Division III, and you're talking to a guy that was a Division II basketball player at West Liberty State, and so I'm very familiar with the concepts of what West Liberty has done. And Coach Crutchfield, who is the all-time winningest coach in college basketball by percentage, not Coach K, not Gino, not Pat Summitt, it's Coach Crutchfield. I look at him as someone that I really respect, and I respect a lot of what Coach Crutchfield does. And so yeah, and then Frank on my staff, Coach Frank Ferraro,
yeah.
he's a head coaching veteran at Waynesburg College. So I think that you can incorporate from small colleges what they're doing. They take more chances because a lot of times, they can do those things. They don't have a contract situation where they'll get fired at the end of the year. They just
Yeah.
chalk it up bad year and they'll change something around. Oftentimes it's a Division I level, it's a win now mentality, and you can't take chances. And so you find that everybody runs side pick and roll and runs flex and plays very similar. We're not going to do that.
Really interesting. Oh my gosh, that's fascinating stuff. Um, So Dan, I want to look back. When you look at the last few years for this program, 2020 season 5-11, 2021 season 11-18 overall, a little bit better winning percentage, but still you go 6-10 and A10 play. Uh, then 2 seasons ago, 19 wins. This past year, 21 wins, NIT berth. I want to ask you, what did you learn about yourself, whether it was related to coaching or completely unrelated, from 2020 to now?
Um, I think the biggest thing is that you can't live and die with wins and losses, and you can't let other people get into your head about wins and losses. Winning and losing doesn't define me as an individual, and it shouldn't define our players. The journey is much more important. And we were in a situation where uh, we didn't have an arena, and
Mhm.
there's never been a Division I team ever. And we looked this up and we did research on it. There's never been a Division I team ever that has had to play in 5 different arenas. And then you throw COVID on it,
Yeah.
and then you throw 6 major knee injuries and 2 Achilles tendon injuries, and you just come up with a situation where you win 5 one year and you win 11 the next year, and those were very difficult times. And you add COVID to it, and you add changing your locker room as a 12 by 12 storage room. It just was a very, very difficult period of time for Duquesne women's basketball, and that affected me. It certainly affected me. I hate to use the word PTSD, but anytime we had a player go down,
Mhm.
uh, 11 win season and the 19 win season, I was always concerned, and I was treating kids like China dolls. And if you would ask the players about how this summer went, and I tell you when it really started, when we were 7-6 or 6-7, whatever it was, coming out of Christmas break last year, and we
Mhm.
had to change. We had a training camp immediately after Christmas that was very challenging and difficult, and since then I've not treated them like China dolls, and I've treated them like the women warriors that they are. And I had to get past that, and I did, and we're in a much different place, and our expectations are to win 23 games, and our aspirations are to win 25 this year. And so hopefully we'll be able to reach that aspiration. But that was a very difficult time, and you really have to understand that wins and losses don't define you when you have those kind of situations. And it took a lot of work on my part to get to that point.
Really interesting. I mean, you hear a lot of coaches talk about that. It feels like it takes a while to fully acknowledge that, like, be process oriented. I heard on Hard Knocks, the TV show about the Bears, like they had Nick Saban come in and he was talking about that. He's like, Caleb Williams has all these expectations in the world. Uh, People are going to be upset if it doesn't happen in year one, but don't be judging him based on a win and a loss. Like, there's a lot more to this if he's got the process right. I know I shouldn't bring up the Bears football team on the basketball show, but it's really interesting to hear what you've taken away from the past few years. I mean, it's a valuable lesson.
Well, I didn't become less of a coach. And that was the biggest thing that I had to recognize. And I didn't really feel like I had become less of a coach. There were moments of doubt, there always is. But, I'd look at the historical record of what we had done, and I knew that we were pretty good. And,
Yeah.
and, and people can look at that and say that's cocky. But I mean, you take away the COVID year, and we've had one losing season, and you take away the COVID year from everyone in the Atlantic 10, and we have the most wins of anyone in my 11, 12-year period. So, like, I knew that we had an answer for the secret sauce and how to win. We just had to get through a really difficult, turbulent time with some things that didn't necessarily, we didn't have control of. But was there moments of self-doubt? Absolutely. And any coach that tells you that they don't have self-doubt is lying. The biggest self-doubters in the world might be head coaches. They're the most paranoid people in the world in many cases. And so, like, you have to get past that and let that go, to really not only win on the court, but also to win in life, so that you have, a great family, and you have a great life where you're enjoying life, and your mental health and your physical health is important, and it's healthy. And when you get to that point, and I'm certainly at that point, you feel really good about things.
A great message, man. Congratulations on getting to that point. Like it's huge, and I'm sure you guys are in for another big season here. To wrap up, Dan, thank you so much for joining me today. I want to ask a question that I asked Jeff Capel recently. I want to get around, if we can get everyone else on the show. I want to get around to asking all the head coaches in the city this same question. When you look at the women's basketball scene in the city and around the city of Pittsburgh, how does it compare to the rest of the country, other cities in the region or all over the country? And just where does Pittsburgh stack up in terms of, okay, this is a basketball town too. It's not just a football town.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I'm going to answer it honestly and not give you coach speak. Uh, you know, many people say, "Oh, the women's side is much better in Pittsburgh." I don't agree with that. I think that when you look at it, there is typically two players in every class that we can recruit, and we're a top 100 program.
Mm.
On the side, there's usually one or two guys that can end up at a Duquesne or UNC Charlotte or Drexel, a top 100 program. And if we did if we did the research, I think that we would find that there's some similarities there. And then you have your next level down with kids going to smaller leagues. And on the women's side, I think that's where we might be a little bit better and have more depth than the men's side of high school basketball locally is that type of player. So it's interesting that there's this vibe and this conversation that the women's side is that much better. And I think historically over the last 20 years that would be the case when we see the Swin Cashes and the last 30 years when we include
Mm.
Susie McConnell. But Tanisha Wright is someone that no one really talks about. Tanisha is someone who is one of the best players in Penn State history and was a professional for many years. There's a young lady from Clairton that no one knows about that played at Cal U that has had a long career overseas in the best leagues. And so the women's side is very good, but at the high end, there's usually only one or two players per class that are good enough to play at our level, which is the highest level of women's basketball. I think that we have very good coaches at the high school level, and I think the thing that separates us from the men's side locally is that we have we have prominent AAU teams.
Yeah.
John Tate and Rob Cash have done with the Western PA Bruins, and what Jamal Woodson has done with Slam has put girls basketball from Pittsburgh on the map nationally. Both of them have done an excellent job of getting our AAU basketball scene out there and really building it to being a really strong brand. And having a son in the 7th grade, I haven't seen that quite as much on the boys' side. And he's only in the 7th grade, so that's a little young. But certainly what Jared has done with Malik Thomas, the top recruit, and getting him to overtime elite and guiding him has been very noteworthy. I think he's done a great job helping guide him. And I think that there's other people on the men's side that have done a good job. But I think the girls' side of basketball is healthy. I think that we have very good coaches, and there's some coaches who have taken a break that I'm hoping that will come back. Dory and Spencer. I'm hoping that they'll come back to coach the women's game because we certainly miss their knowledge base and their outstanding coaches, and hopefully they'll come back. But Lauren Montecalvo, to the gentleman at Norwin, and many others. Steve Lodovico took some time off for his family from Blackhawk High School. We just have really good coaches, and I'm excited to see some of them come back, and I'm excited to see what some of them will do this year with the rosters that they have.
We hear all about for the last 2 or 3 years. What's that?
A little different answer than what most people would give you, and a
I
little
love
lengthy.
it. I appreciate it.
Okay, good.
No, yeah, it's fascinating, man. And I want to ask you now, like, we've heard for the past 2 or 3 years all about the rise of the women's game nationally, and you can't walk a day in basketball season without hearing the name Angel Reese or Caitlin Clark. Do you feel that? Like, do you feel the rise, the upward trajectory of the women's game here?
65% of the medals that the Team USA won were women. Women's sports has an opportunity now to capitalize on the Caitlin Clark phenomena and Angel Reese to a degree also. Um, it's amazing what happened in the NCAA tournament this past year. I had a lot of old guys who had never really watched women's basketball. They were talking more about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese than they were anything on the men's side.
Yeah.
I think that can continue to happen, but we have to build other stars in our college game up now and not let there be a hangover of Angel and Caitlin as we go into this NCAA season. We have to build new stars that are relatable. It's really important that we do that, and teams also, because on the men's side, you have such change with players changing teams so much that you're seeing. You might be rooting for the jersey, but there's always 10 new guys on that roster, and I think the average fan that might be fatigue, and they may not enjoy that on the men's side. So we have an opportunity to capitalize with a transfer portal that's a little bit smaller and not quite as crazy. And the most important part is let's continue to sell Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Cameron Brink and some of the other great players. But we need to develop new stars for this upcoming NCAA season. And we certainly have our Caitlin Clark in Meg McConnell, and there's a lot of little girls in Western PA that have a McConnell jersey, and we'll be certainly doing that at Duquesne. But on a national scope and a national scale, hopefully Meg will be part of that conversation. But we have to find some others besides just Paige Buchers at UConn, and that's going to be key to our continued growth in women's basketball. Women's sports overall, we've seen the Mia Hamm and women's soccer have growth. I think we're going to see more growth in women's volleyball. Certainly, women's softball is really enjoyable also. But it's really important that women support women, and it's really important for men, the average male fan, to understand that women's sports are different than men's sports. Women's basketball is a completely different game than men's basketball. The NBA is played above the rim. Men's Division I basketball is played at the rim. Women's basketball is played at the bottom of the net, and that's where we're played. You don't watch women's basketball to watch dunks. You watch it, the artistry of running sets correctly and playing with freedom instead of there being a foul literally every second, because as we saw in the men's Olympic Games, how physical it was with the contact. Women's basketball allows for more flow, and you have to appreciate it for what it is and not compare the two.
My grandpa's a huge women's basketball fan because of the fundamentals, because of the purity, I guess, of the game. So it's I love the message you're spreading there. Coach, thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. And we'll be watching. You guys do have your own Caitlin Clark here. A big star is in the city of Pittsburgh with Meg McConnell. Looks like and sounds like you've got a great supporting cast. So best of luck in the next few months leading up to the season. And good luck in November.
We're really excited about the year, George, and really appreciate you taking the time to spend with me. And we'll look forward to seeing you at some games. Bring your grandfather.
I would love to. I'll send him that. Hey, thanks, Coach.
Take care. Thank you.